All right, guys, man, welcome to Beard of Darkness Book Reviews. I've been so excited to talk to this gentleman since I seen how much fun he was having at Dragon Con this year. It was really my first look at a lot of different aspects, all these authors in one place. I seen him in like every picture. Dyrk Ashton, how are you tonight?
I am doing very well, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Man, of course.
And I see all these crazy people over here
People have been
are
all day.
watching us right now. Ooh, oh, even HC Newell. Wow.
HC Newell, man.
We have stardom in the house.
Absolutely. I have to shout out. She did something so wonderful. So for my birthday, my wife ordered the special edition of The Curse of the Fallen.
Ah,
And she
yeah.
took it upon herself in conjunction with my wife to just add this happy birthday part to the front of my book. I even have her dog's
Ah.
footprint.
That's awesome.
It's one
Hmm.
of the coolest books I own. I put it on display.
I
So
might I
yes,
might I might I have a little dog. I might have to steal that.
it's such a cool idea, man. It is. Thank you guys for being here. They've been chatting it up for a while, man. It's so cool to
Yeah, it looks
see.
like it.
So, yeah, like I said, the first time I found out that you were an author and got to really research what you've been doing for a little while now, which is so cool. And I think your history is so interesting too. Your schooling, what you've done as far as like the film thing. We'll talk about it, but first, could we talk a little bit about your work first? The Paternus trilogy and Kraken Rider Z that you did with David Estes.
Mhm.
Would you kind of give us an overview of those two pieces of work?
They are some books that I wrote. Uh, um, as long as I don't have to impart any wisdom, you scared me.
I
Okay.
well, I feel like you've got some to drop on us.
Well, the Paternus trilogy, the first book came out in 2016. I had been writing for 3 years. That took me over 3 years to write. And that was my first full length novel. Um, and it took me like another 3 years to finish, 3.5 or 4 years to finish that. So Kraken Rider Z is the newest thing, and I had never collaborated on anything before, so it was so much fun to do, though, and just having someone to bounce ideas off of and say, "Look, I'm thinking about doing this, having this 10-year time jump." Because I think all that stuff's going to be boring, and we can learn a little more about it afterwards, and get to the reunion. And anybody who's read it knows what I mean without spoilers. And get moving. And he's like, "Well, dude, what's your gut say?" I say, "It says do it." But I'm the kind of person that would sit and like write up columns of pros and cons of why to do it and why not to do it and all this stuff, and spend 3 days suffering over it. But I realized, wait a minute, I can ask David what he thinks. And all the stress was gone. It was wonderful. Really,
So
really a great experience.
it was something that was it your idea to do the collaboration? How did that kind of come together?
Okay, so um I'll start. Wraithmark Creative hooks up these big selling authors with people that are known, but maybe have not sold anywhere near as many books
Okay.
together. Like Bryce and Luke Chmalenko did the first Stormweaver, Iron Prince book together. They did, before that, they did A Mark of Kings together, because Luke is, huge seller in lit RPG market, has a lot of fans, and Bryce was known and had done okay. But so they started up the company, and that's what they've done, is done those kinds of things, and it seems to have worked out really well. So we were in a Slack group that I'm in, a whole bunch of us. Well, there's really not all that many that are active, but Uh, we were just talking about everything that's still that is popular and has been popular for ages and is still popular, like magic schools, right? Like
Mhm.
dragon riders, like certain types of epic fantasy. Shit, the farm boy fantasy is still selling, you know, it's ancient. Um, Lord of the Rings is basically a farm boy fantasy, you know, a nobody with no skills thrown into this grand adventure, right? Um,
Absolutely.
and that stuff still, you know, the outcast, the underdog, you know, the person with absolutely no chance who rises, you know, to get bigger. And military school fantasy is big. um Progression fantasy is big. There was this whole list, so at the end of it I was just like, okay, screw it, and I hyphenated all those things, and I said, and I'm going to write one of those. And except because I'm a knucklehead, I added, except that instead of riding a dragon, my main character is going to ride a kraken, and I'm going to call it Kraken Rider Z.
Yeah.
You know, and initially I thought that idea for the title came just popped in my head because of, you know, World War Z. But it turns out that now that I think about it more, there are all those animes, because anime is generally progression fantasy, you know. Um, and all those animes that have those kinds of names like Vampire Hunter D, and you know, there are a lot of them, actually a lot more than I had, so I must have had that in my in the back of my head too. So anyway, 2 days later I get a direct message from Bryce O'Connor, who runs Wraithmark, and he goes, Dirk, you know, that remember that ridiculous joke you made? We really would like you to do that. And I'm like, "Yeah, we know, I know you're not interested, and I know you have your own things you want to do. You want to do the Paternus prequels, and then you want to do the other thing. But just want you to know that we could work out a pretty good thing if you want to do this." And I was like, yeah, okay, I'll think about it. But yeah, I'm probably not interested. The next day, David Estes gets a hold of me. Bryce and David together got a hold of me and said, David really wants to work with you on this. I was like, all right, let's have a Zoom meeting. And it happened. And it was such a great deal and a wonderful thing that, and I have had no regrets. And that's, you know, uh 2 years ago. So yeah,
That's absolutely amazing.
yeah, so here we are. And now I'm working on book two. David and I are working on book two.
Oh man,
Yeah.
that's kind of where I was going with that. But
And David is such a good guy, and he's such a great guy to work with, and so supportive. And because I went through a bunch of stuff with my dad, going through with chemo, and he's got Alzheimer's. And then I moved into my folks' house and signed a home equity line of credit to get some renovations done, get the bathrooms complete, because the house they bought in 1970 and it's never been renovated.
mm,
Really, I mean, well, it's a little more complicated than that, but yeah, there's just a lot of stuff that had to be done. So that's where I am, and it was a lot. So I but Wraithmark and David supported me through the whole thing. They're like cheerleaders through the whole thing, and here we are. So yeah, it's all great.
so there's so many things that you covered and what you just said that I absolutely love. First of which, in the respect order, is what you're doing as far as what your family's going through. Man, lots
Yeah,
of respect,
thanks.
lots of respect.
Yeah,
It
it's not easy.
takes a real one to
Yeah,
step up and do something like that.
thanks. Thanks.
Absolutely. The other thing is having Wraithmark being interested in you as an author and like, hey, uh, I mean, I can imagine somebody who would love that. Yeah, I would love that to happen in the future to me. And
Yeah, yeah.
um,
Yeah, yeah, it's funny. Yeah, life is weird.
so when that kind of conversation happened, when Wraithmark got a hold of you, where were you at? Did you? What year was it? How long ago was that?
Oh, that would have been okay. This is 2023, right? Almost
Sure.
2024. Okay.
Yep.
Um, that would have been in probably that was late. Boy, when was that? Was that late 2020 or late or in 2021?
So
I
it was a
think it must have
process.
been 2021 when that
So
happened. Yeah.
it's been a couple years process. The book's been out for
Just a month and a week.
yeah, and I'll tell you, one of the people I look up to highly for a lot of reasons is oh my gosh, I do this every time I'm on live.
Oh, I forget
He
names constantly.
it's terrible. It's
Oh, yeah.
terrible.
No, I'm awful. Yeah.
Yeah. He had a review. I'll think of his name in a second and tell you. And he just talks so wonderfully about a lot of books, but especially Kraken Rider Z. Just absolutely wonderful things. So the community. Tell me if you've had a similar experience, because I'm pretty new in this game still. Like I'm talking all to you. We kind of touched a little bit before we talked live. I started this channel to gain knowledge, and I have you guys on here that I look up to, and it's just the most wonderful thing.
Well, I promise I could fuck you up beyond ability to recover. No, I mean, did I say that out loud? I meant I'll help as much as I can.
There you go. And by the way, I can see the sword collection, and that is awesome.
Yeah,
I'm trying to work on mine.
I've only got a few, but those are the one at the top. There, boy, this is weird.
It is. It's hard.
There. No, there is was actually the Book Nest Best Self-Pub Book of the Year award. That actually has a little plaque on it, which is pretty cool.
That's amazing.
The one below it is an actual well, it's not an original, it's a replica, of course, but it's a handmade gladius, leaf blade gladius.
Oh my god.
And I got that because there are some characters in Paternus who use those.
Andy Peliquin, by the way.
And I needed one. Andy, yeah.
Yeah, dude. He's one of the first guys.
That's who you're thinking of? Oh, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. No, I love Andy. Yeah.
It's funny because
Andy is awesome. And he's so supportive and such a prolific writer and just such a really good guy, you know. Even though he is 8 feet tall, you know.
Well, I have to say, me and him, I think I'm an inch taller than him.
Wow.
We relate.
Are you like 6'10", 6'11"?
I'm 6'5". I think he's 6'4". I think.
Are you sure he's only 6'4"?
He might be
taller. He's really tall.
He is. I talked to him a couple times on the channel.
Well, 6'5" is pretty tall.
And I think we're really close. I can't remember. You may be right. He could be like 5 inches tall.
Yeah.
Now, I do know one of my buddies, Nick Horvath. He's 6'10". He played professional basketball.
Oh, wow.
And also another one, Steve Arian. He's really tall.
Is he? You know, Tom Clouse, who you see a lot probably on Facebook. Great guy. He's 6'10".
Wow.
Yeah, he's big. He's a really tall guy.
It's funny. I'll be walking through Walmart with my wife, and I can spot somebody that's taller than me, like way across. I'm like, I would have to look up to him because you don't see it very often.
No, yeah. I look up to everyone. So.
Well, that's my knees hurt, so I envy that sometimes. It's really my neck hurts.
You saw those pictures probably of me and Ryan Cahill.
I did. I know they were little doctors.
I only come up to his hip.
I feel like those are a little doctor, Dyrk.
No, I was actually just crouched down on one knee.
Yeah,
those are actually just live. And with David Walters, I was just crouching down a little bit.
Yeah, he's a tall one too. I think me and him are the same height.
He's pretty tall. Yeah.
So I keep hearing this, and I don't know the context. Again, I'm new, fairly new in this, only a couple years. What is this deal about your pants?
Oh my God. It's crazy how things evolve and change, right?
It's in the comments and everything.
I mean, it started to be honest, it started in 2017. I went over to BristolCon in England, and I was riding after the con. I was riding with Kareem Mahfouz, now Kareem Green, and Anna Stevens.
Okay.
He was giving us a ride home. Bo, I'm not wearing pants. I'm wearing something. It might, but it's not pants. And they came to the hotel room to help me get my bags, because I brought a big suitcase to load books into, and it ended up being really heavy and poor Kareem had to carry that thing everywhere.
That's awesome.
We went through the subway with that thing. Oh, it was nuts. But so they came up, and I was leaving, and Anna saw in the closet that I had left a pair of pants hanging up in there. And then that got on social media, and it became that someone said something like, "What? Anna stole your pants?" And then it was like Mike Fletcher had an international pants thieving ring, and that he got Anna to steal my pants.
Oh
and then
gosh.
Somehow along the way, Anna Stevens turned into Anna Smith Spark. So Anna Smith Spark got pulled into the whole thing. And they were like these, nefarious heads of some international pant thief ring. And somehow over the years that has involved that I don't wear pants. And actually I wear sweats all the time. So it's kind of true. And in the summer I'm wearing shorts, and those don't count as pants as far as I'm concerned.
It's funny because as soon as I posted that we were talking, I start seeing these pants references, and there's no context. I'm like, okay, there's a topic, right? I love what
that's the story, and that's how it evolved.
That's lovely. It's little nuances like that that just it lets you know the community's on your side. I love it. Finality says, awesome to see that Matt has completed the whole Wizard, Warrior, and Words collection. I have.
Wow, that's a lot of episodes. And that all started on a lark. Jed, who none of us knew at all, contacted me and Mike and Rob and asked us if we were interested. And we were like talking on the side. We're like, oh, yeah, we'll try it once or twice and see how it goes. And it sounds like fun. And 2 years later, we were still doing it, or a year and a half, it was a couple of years, I think.
What he or she means is that I've had all of you on.
Okay.
I haven't seen every episode. I've seen quite a bit.
And I'm last?
I think so, yeah. I'm sorry.
No, save the best for last.
Exactly.
Right. Fuck those guys.
Well, it's actually, it was a little later, and I didn't really know about I talked to Jed, I've talked to Michael, I've talked to Rob, but it was like in between those ones when I really dived deep into that.
Okay.
So yeah.
There are some nuggets of wisdom hidden in the insanity somewhere in there.
Very, very useful knowledge, very much so. And I'll tell you, all four of you, so Jed, you, Rob, and four.
Yeah.
Make sure I'm right. I've gained so much. Jed is just like, he's one of those guys that could just talk, and everything he says is just wonderful. And he doesn't need it written down. He's just a natural speaker.
I know. And he's only like 14.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. He's a young guy, and I think he's doing a wonderful thing, man. He's hit a home run as far as this community. He's doing wonderful
he's got his
things.
own thing going that seems to be doing really well for him.
Man, he's
So
got like hundreds of thousands of views on videos. He's
yeah,
doing wonderful things.
yeah,
So
that's what he really wanted. So
love it. So okay, so the subgenres of what we kind of covered, Kraken Riders Z, we did. So what was your inspiration behind the Paternus trilogy? What was like, I want to write about this?
wow. Okay. I need to answer Elizabeth Tabler really quick.
This one?
Yes.
She's wonderful, by the way.
There we go. Yeah. No, she's awesome. She's been a huge supporter of the Paternus trilogy forever. And
That's amazing.
There's a character in Kraken Rider Z that might have a name that closely resembles that.
That's amazing.
I did a lot of that. There's a lot of Tuckerization, they call it, in Kraken Rider Z. And it might turn some people off, but the percentage of readers are going to be like what 0.0001% of the people that read the book will actually have any idea who any of those people are, but those people will know.
That's what's important.
Yeah, exactly. So Paternus, why did I want to write that? I wrote short stories and I always wrote down ideas, and I did finish a novel handwritten with pencil when I was in high school.
Wow.
And then never did anything with it. Ended up, going to college, and of course that was very busy, and then getting into film. And I wrote a bunch of screenplays. Never did quite get an agent, but I did have one of my screenplays read by Ridley Scott's company and by New Line Cinema at the time.
Wow.
This is in the 90s. And so I always liked writing, and I always wanted to write a fantasy novel, always, because I was one of those people that have been reading fantasy since I could walk, basically, starting with,
Jealous.
Dr. Seuss, which is fantasy, of course.
Yeah.
And grew up a Hobbit and Lord of the Rings kid, and Chronicles of Narnia and the Borrowers, and
Borrowers.
all that Stuart Little, all that
yes,
crazy fun stuff from way back in the day. So anyway, I always had these ideas. I'm a big myth freak. I love myths from all over the world. Always have been. Just the kind of stuff I would devour just for fun, and always wanted to write something in that vein, using real mythologies around the world. And then I had all these kind of weird ideas, and I when I finally left my tenure track position at University of Toledo as a film professor to teach all online, I was like, wait a minute, I have time to read again. So it had been 10 years since I'd really read much fantasy. I think the only thing I read in that whole time was I'll think of it. Give me, see, I'm doing the same thing.
We're similar.
I do this all the time. So I started just devouring all the stuff I had never read, like Harry Potter, and I was in my 40s when I was doing this. I don't care.
No.
And read Rick Riordan, the Lightning Thief. Percy Jackson.
Jackson, right.
And read The Alchemist, The Secrets of the Immortal Nicholas Flamel. And there was all this stuff that had all this mythology and legendary characters and stuff in it. And I was like, man, I want to read one of these but for grownups. Now, I was also reading at the time Game of Thrones and Joe Abercrombie
Mhm.
and Anthony Ryan, and picking up, you know, a ton of that stuff too, just from word of mouth, because I didn't know anybody who was reading fantasy really at that time. My sister, but she read other kind of stuff, you know.
Mm.
She was into other kinds of things. And I so I started to think, well, maybe I could carve out the time. I could do this now. So I started pulling together all the insane ideas, including the idea that I had wanted to play with was the idea of I didn't even know what they were called at that time, but mythemes, original stories that may have spread across the world and begun these mythologies, right? And what I was thinking is I wanted to pull together kind of a unified field theory where all the myths of the world could come from basically this one source, right? And could have spread and changed, and characters who are absolutely ancient would have multiple names because they've lived all over the world throughout long before human beings evolved to up through their entire, you know, process of evolution. They would have been known, right, to all these cultures all over, and then ones they hadn't seen would have carried stories about them somewhere. So that's kind of what I wanted to do. And I just started, well, what if I did this? What if I did that? And I started, and I have hundreds of pages of notes,
Mm.
ridiculous, stupid amounts of research about history of, you know, geology and history of life, and um, all, you know, all the major meteor strikes and volcanic eruptions, and, you know, all this stuff. And you can see some of it shows up,
It
right,
does.
in the books. So it's fear the beard, people.
That's his favorite comment. Thank you, Jim.
um so and then it just developed from there, and I started writing and writing and rewriting and rewriting and writing and rewriting. And then the first book, finally I was ready to put it out there. And I didn't even know if I wanted to try to publish while I was writing it. And then self-publishing was coming along, and even in late 2015, early 2016, you would basically be blacklisted, you know, by the trads, pubs. And I didn't really care about any of that. You know, I was older, I was in my 50s already,
Mhm.
and just really didn't care about, you know, that the prestige part of it. And I wasn't afraid of the business part of it because I used to produce films,
Yeah,
low budget TV, um, low budget features, commercials, bigger
that's
budget
super cool, man.
commercials and industrial films. And so, you know, the idea of having to pull together, you know, everything I needed to get together for putting together a book and dealing with artists and stuff, I'd already done all that kind of stuff. So, and you know, I'd been the route with screenplays in film, and they're very similar businesses. And I have never ever regretted that choice. And I also was told by some friends of mine who read it that they would want you to change this. They would not let you do a lot of the things that you're doing in this, from the writing style, to you know, jumping around in uh, you know, styles, or not styles but topics, or approaches, mood, because it goes from, like, you know, lighthearted, you know, kind of romance, fantasy romance, to like true horror,
Mm.
you know, and, you know, stuff as nasty as anything out of grimdark, to this and that. So the tone floats a lot. Plus, you know, the present tense, you know, a lot of things that they just would not want to see in an adult fantasy book. So I was like, okay, no, this is what I want to do. I'll get this out of my system and maybe later. But so yeah, self pub was the way to go. I've never had any regrets doing
So
that.
I love that, because what I hear is you have this idea of what you want to do. You have
Mhm.
this idea of what they're saying as far as traditional publishing goes, what isn't acceptable.
Yeah, and I haven't heard a lot of good.
And you know, yeah,
So,
I know what you're saying.
yeah.
I talked
Nothing
to,
against, I mean, half of my best friends are trad pub authors.
right.
Nothing against them. It's
No,
just I feel bad that a lot of them get kind of screwed over. Um, so
I
and I have friends who are trad agents,
mm,
like no, like agents and or trad editors. So but it's not their fault. And it's not the editors that are the problem. It's not, you know, it's it's just the behemoth that is the industry,
mm.
um, and how they do things.
What I respect is you did what you wanted to do, and you're telling me there's no regrets, man. That feels
No,
good.
and I had no idea. I actually didn't expect anybody. I was like, the people that like this are going to be crazy, because I'm crazy and I know that this is just really strange. And so that's why I'm not surprised at all by the negative trashing reviews. I was like, that's more what I expected than the actual what's turned out to be the preponderance of positive reviews, which blows me away and is really,
I
really awesome.
I have to say, one of the things I knew I was going to do, because it impressed me so much when I started the first Paternus, that I knew that this was going to be part of the interview. Before you start the book, which I'm going to get into the prologue because it goes a lot with what you said, but before the prologue, the praise for Paternus is, it's something that very impressive. I have to just kind of go through this if you don't mind.
Sure.
Best mythology / folklore book of 2016 for Reality Bites magazine. Best debut novel finalist for Reddit Fantasy Best of 2016. Top 10 debut novels of 2016 for Fantasy Book Critic. We have a finalist out of 300 books for Mark Lawrence's SPFBO 2016.
Third place. I took third place.
That is incredible. So what, I'd have to do some math, but that's out of 300 books, people. That's amazing. Amazon #1 bestseller for US, UK, and Canada. Mark Lawrence, somebody who I idolize.
That blows me away. Yeah.
Epic, innovative, urban fantasy, a great read. Um, so many. Anna Stevens, a really unique novel. Nicholas Eames,
Yeah.
intelligent, intricate, suspenseful, and epic. Josiah
It
Bancroft.
just blows me away that people like him and Bancroft just like the books. It's just,
Bancroft
yeah.
says expansive, ambitious, and engrossing. Jonathan French, who won an SPFBO.
He won that year. The year I was
Was
in,
it
he
that
won.
year? Okay,
It
with the
was
Gray
that year.
Bastards.
And Phil Tucker took second. Yeah.
A mighty debut. Kirkus Reviews. I mean, a fast-paced, glorious, intricate, and there's more. It was really impressive, and I want to mention a little bit about the prequel, or the prologue. Sorry. It really says a lot from what you said, the mythology, what you wanted to do with it. It really starts off explaining just that. These things have happened in this world, such as volcanic eruptions, meteor strikes that shook the world. It was a really foundational moment, that made me want to keep reading. I think that prologue is amazing, and I just wanted to let you know that. I think it's wonderful.
Good. Because those kind of things kind of come as you're writing. It wasn't something I started with. It came as an idea as I was writing. Um, and I had the idea of who the character was that said that. Um, but I don't think I've ever told anybody. I never put it in the book, and I don't credit it as a certain character says that. Can you guess who out of the characters in the books I had in
Um,
mind that actually said that to Z and would have said that to Z and Fee at some point?
I'm just gonna guess off the top of my Kabir.
We'll let nope.
Um,
Well, let's let our listeners guess.
I would so
Who is it speaking in the prologue of Paternus Rise of Gods, Book 1?
I know the guy that I just threw up here, a guy that I do the Four Beersmen of Apocalypse podcast with, David
Yeah.
List.
Yeah. Hi, David.
Wonderful guy, and he is a massive fan of yours, which I didn't know until I kind of told the Twitterverse that I was talking to you. Really close friend of mine is David. So let's
Cool.
maybe get his opinion. I would love that. So Who is
it, David?
Who is it, David?
Who is it that's speaking in the prologue of the first book of the Paternus trilogy?
So while he's thinking and he's going to answer, I'm going to go on to.
We can move on and then revisit the list.
Absolutely, we absolutely will. So you said you were young when you found fantasy. You started reading. What was it that really? Do you remember the moment, or the book, or the author that really was like, yes, this is what I want to read. This is what I love.
Oh boy, it just was always like that. I remember reading about the Norse gods, like in a book for kids. I read early. I was a tiny kid. I mean, I was still only weighed like 98 pounds freshman year in high school, right? And no, not even that. It was more like 95 or 96 pounds. I wrestled 98.
There you go.
In my freshman year. And then everybody's David's like, oh, just put me right on the spot. You're on the spot, David.
We're cheering you on, brother.
Yeah. And we I can't remember what I was talking about.
Oh, foundational you read.
Oh, yeah. What I was reading when I was a kid. Just I remember in second, third, fourth grade. I mean, I was reading. I mean, I read everything I could get my hands on, but I was reading Edgar Allan Poe when I was in third grade. I was reading. I mentioned like E.B. White, stuff like Charlotte's Web. I love those books. And I see a guess up there, and I'm gonna say nope, not that one either.
Uncle Edgar.
Sorry, Bert. I mean, it's not really fair because I never really said, but
sure,
that's just what was in my head. It wouldn't have to be that character, but it's just a character that was in my head.
I love that, though.
Yeah,
that's a little untold truth that we're gonna find out.
So, and then, very early on, I got into the Chronicles of Narnia, the whole idea of the Lion, Witch of the Wardrobe, and the wardrobe that you could walk through to this place. And John A. Douglas says it was Professor Plum in the library with the candlestick. And sorry, no, Bert wasn't Uncle Edgar either. Hey, there's Kay from Kay's Hidden Book.
Yes, absolutely. She is. Yeah, I absolutely love her channel.
Hi, Kay.
Kay.
And I just read everything that I could get my hands on. Plus, I was getting more and more mythology stuff, and I was reading all that stuff right up through high school and then through my undergrad and college. I was reading fantasy all the time. And yeah, I went on a big Conan shtick where I read all the Conan books.
Robert E. Howard, right?
Howard, yeah. But I was also, I was reading like I was reading all the Sherlock Holmes, the Arthur Conan Doyle stuff. I was reading a lot of like Henry O. I was reading again, a lot of Edgar Allan Poe, H.G. Wells, of course. all of the, I went through a phase where I read all of the H.G. Wells stuff. I read a ton of stuff. I mean, it's just, yeah, it just was always like that. Plus, I was always reading mythologies, and then I'd find a book that says mythology, folklore, mythology and folklore of Ireland, some esoteric, bizarre book I'd find in the library, and I'm like, oh, I'm reading that.
Right.
And then I got into the Hindu stuff,
Okay.
the Mahabharata and the
Yes.
and the Puranas and all that stuff is just so insane.
It
right?
is.
Right. And then, through my lifetime, since I'm not a kid, more stories have been discovered and published and put out in different versions of things. And, it's just been awesome. That's a good guess, Jim, but it wasn't Kabir.
That's what I said, brother. So there's a couple things. You remind me that maybe my love for fantasy isn't so new. And this is the first time I'm realizing this, okay?
Okay.
I'm a huge Charlotte Webb's fan as a kid, okay?
Yeah.
I'm a huge Narnia fan. It started with the movie. I was a little younger. I was probably in middle school when that came out, as far as the movie and then the book.
Yeah.
But maybe it
then you pick them up, and they're so little. I mean, you can read them like in a night.
Yep.
Each one, 2 or 1 to 3 nights, you can read them and just cruise through them.
And then Miss Kubion in 3rd grade started us with Harry Potter, and I loved it. Anybody who would bring a book in, like the hardcover of Harry Potter, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so jealous. I don't remember asking for it from my parents, but I just remember wanting it.
Right. I had forgotten. That reminds me, we always had reading hour in 2nd and 3rd grade, and our teachers would read out of things like Call of the Wild. So I went on a huge Jack London jag, and then Treasure Island. So I got on a huge who is it? Stevenson.
I couldn't tell
my
you.
brain is dying. I went on a big thing reading a lot of his books, So, all of those things are, I wouldn't call them fantasy, but they're fantasy adjacent, right?
It's what sparks that interest.
Adventures. Good evening, Langdon. Welcome.
Yes, Langdon. He's on my 2024 list of books to read. He's a new author. I can't wait to read his book. There's so many. I'm coming out with my video shortly. I haven't done a lot of recorded videos lately. Just the kids are very loud. So when I find that moment to finish it up, I'll give that my list for 2024 of my reads. There's going to be more that I'll read in 2024, but my for sure reads. Yes, this was a book, Kay, The Giver by Lois Lowry.
Mm-hmm.
That I kept seeing and I never picked it up. I still haven't.
Me neither. I mean, I did read there were a whole lot of books in that vein, Hunger Games. I read all the Hunger Games books. I read they also made movies out of it. I can't think of the name of it.
Was it The Maze? I'm just like you. Like
they made the movies, 3 movies, which are not bad. And but I read all of those books. What the hell? No, Percy Jackson. I read those, but much later in my life. Divergence. That's it.
Divergence.
Yep. Yes. Thanks, Langdon. Yep.
Look at that, man.
I read those and really liked those. Yeah. Yep.
That's cool, man.
But I never read The Giver, and I hear good things about it.
I remember I picked it up in like 5th or 6th grade, and I remember my teacher saying, "Look, that's too big for you. Put it back." And I did.
I read Twilight. I read Twilight, and no, I'm not a fan.
Okay.
I read the first book, and no, I'm not a fan.
Okay.
I didn't hate it. I expected to hate it, but I had zero interest in reading any more of them.
It's what you would call what a romantasy.
Yeah, well, yeah, it is, and I definitely can see the appeal. So
Sure. Oh, for sure.
it was so huge. I expected something more out of it, but
So
that's,
many people love
that's
that.
just me. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I would never poo-poo anyone for loving those.
I
Never.
love that, man. The
Yeah.
subjectiveness of what we do
Yeah.
here and what we love is what makes it beautiful, right?
Yeah. But I interrupted you. You were talking about something. I apologize for that.
Oh, no, no, you didn't. You didn't. I was just saying that my teacher told me to put it back, and I did. I wish I wouldn't have listened to her, picked it up, and read it. The Giver.
Yeah. Yeah.
In sixth grade, maybe in accordance with my grades.
Why didn't she want you to read it?
Well, maybe she was like, "This guy can't pay attention for long enough to read this long of a book," which she probably was right.
Yeah,
Um,
maybe.
Sometimes you just have to give and take, and I'm giving at this moment. Maybe she was right, but maybe I should pick it up now, right? Um, Bert
No,
says,
Bert.
"Can we know?"
No, Bert, I'm never going to tell you. David List has not guessed yet.
David, we're waiting.
I'm not going to answer it until Dave. You know why he's been so quiet? Because he ran and got the book and he's reading it and trying to figure it out.
And
I
it's
know.
lovely. He talks about your Kickstarter and it says like to my okay, here we go. David List. I'm gonna throw this up. I have no context, but I'm just gonna throw it up. I just referenced my memory by reading the prologue right now, but it's been far too long since I've read these for me to wager a serious guess. That said, we'll wait for that next comment.
Kay says you'd fly through The Giver now.
I would. It's really not that big as far as what I read nowadays.
You read Paternus.
Yes, like and what you were talking about, Norse mythology, which is really one of the foundational reasons I love fantasy now. John Gwynn is to blame for me starting this channel.
Okay.
Man, The Shadow of the Gods was the first book I read by him. I want to pick up Malice.
I've talked to John quite a few times, but I've never met him. He and Anthony Ryan, I really want to meet those guys because I feel like I know them, but we've never met.
I'm jealous.
To meet those guys. Yeah.
Those are guys I hope to have on my channel. Anthony Ryan's going to be on my 2024 list. The Pariah is something. He wrote The Pariah. I feel like maybe I'm having a brain fart, but he wrote The Pariah, correct?
Yeah, and I'm really hoping those two. They don't. Neither one of them, Anthony or John, go to many cons really, and I'm really hoping that they'll make it to Glasgow Worldcon next year because I'll be there.
Oh my gosh, I wish. I know that me and my wife and where I found you.
It's hard when you've got a lot of little kids.
Yeah. We're working on the babysitter now so that we can go to Atlanta next year.
All right. I see. Now I won't be there next year. So you might as well put it off to the no. There will be a lot of awesome people there, but there are a few of us who won't make it to that because it's going to be really hard to do that and do because that's the end of August. Worldcon is in August. So it's going to be hard to do those two trips back.
Now Worldcon, is that Glasgow?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I've been to three Worldcons, and last one I went to was in Dublin. And I did panels there and delivered a paper. And I don't think I got in. I haven't been able to organize it. I've just been too busy. I haven't been able to organize it yet. So I'm sure I missed the cutoff. So I probably won't be doing any panels. No. But I will be there having a lot of fun and talking to a lot of people.
I know you will because your pictures, like with everybody, is why I was like, who is this guy? And I'm so glad that I did my research, man.
I think, who is this? I see those pictures and I think, who is this guy?
I love it. And the one that I talked to Ryan about it too. It's just so fun to talk about that kind of stuff, man. The community and everything, even seeing the community as far as in Atlanta when I first started this channel was really inspiring. So, what is a piece of advice that you would give to a guy like me who wants to self-publish for the first time?
Oh boy.
I came lock and loaded for you.
Just finish your book. Don't
Okay.
worry about all that stuff yet. You're doing the right thing right now. You're getting out there, you're getting your face and your name out there. You're doing a very cool thing. And that's important. That's good. But number one is just get that book, get that first book finished, get it in the hands of some folks that you trust to read it. Um, you know, and make it the best that you can make it. And then no book is ever finished. At one point, you just have to say, okay, this is done enough.
Sure.
Right. It's been like that for me with every book. And except for maybe the first one, because I worried over that one again and again. And I could have just finished it and published it a year earlier, and I probably should have. I don't know that it's any better. But yeah, it's
Get that book finished. I've
don't
got
but don't be in a huge hurry to get it out there. With your first book, take your time, but be steady about it and get it done. And then you can worry about the tech, all the ins and outs and technical crap of getting it up and getting it out there. Are just that stuff you can learn in a very short amount of time. And you already have a connection. I knew no one. I had no one to ask. I had to learn KDP from watching YouTube videos, and I had nobody to ask anything about this stuff. So, but you'll be all right. Just don't worry.
I love that, man.
Don't worry.
It sounds like really unique.
Don't freak out.
It seems like that's something that you've went through, that's experience talking, and I absolutely respect that so much. That's what I'm after. That's that gold nugget that I talk so much about on this channel. I often talk about that gold that I find that I write down.
See, I don't always say things that are just stupid. I'm pointing at them, not at you.
Right. So a couple things. I've got that list of people who are, hey, send me anything that you want me to read. I'm so thankful for that. I have a lot of people on my side as far as that list goes.
Good.
My issue was I tried, and this kind of leads into a question I had for you. I tried pantsing because I thought that was my process. No, sir. No, sir. I absolutely lose everything that I've written the day before in my mind. So I am currently going through this process of doing an outline for an idea I've had for a while. And I really find leaving these really these points in my outline that I know I want to happen, but leaving that creative freedom in between to kind of lead myself there through my writing is where I'm going to go.
Yeah, I outline in very broad strokes, and I'm always willing to go back and re-outline if I find that things aren't working. I've never had to really throw anything away that I've written. I throw out ideas before I get there because they're just not going to work. I can tell as I go through. But I find that it's good for me if I know what I want to happen, but it's okay if I don't know how it's going to happen.
Yes.
Right? That I can discover as I go along.
Palmer Pickering is in the building, and she says, "Hi, people. Dyrk is the one who told me about SPFBO. Big thanks."
Oh, well, you're very welcome, Palmer.
She's also on my 2024 read with Heliotrope. Can't wait.
Ah, cool. Very cool. Yes. David came in with an answer.
Aegis.
Yes. That's not it. And I like how he says runs and hides because he got that particular name. I'm not sure if he's talking about the old man of the sea, or if he's talking about the rhino, god of the forge. But it's neither one of those, David. The voice I had in mind was the old elephant.
All right.
Yes. Um, that's okay. Yeah, the old man of the sea. That's a really good guess, man. That's a really good guess.
He's a smart guy.
Yeah, it is. Very good guess.
I love that.
Uh, but yeah, no, that was a really good guess, and you picked a good obscure one too. So,
Which is another one of those like super influential but super fast reads, right?
yes. Which one are you talking about
The Old
now?
Man and the Sea.
Oh yeah. No, yeah. I was talking. Yeah, I was talking about Cetus's older brother. Whoops, spoiler. And
um,
that's who David's talking about. But
I love that. It's kind of I love that David was man enough to go through and throw up those answers, man. That takes a lot of bravery, brother.
yeah,
By the
no,
way,
no,
he is somebody that was on this channel's side from the very beginning.
very cool.
Yeah, it's like you have those foundational people. He's very much one of those guys, and
Yeah,
I still do a podcast with him today. So, man, thank you,
cool.
David, for being here.
Yeah,
Um,
no, yeah, it was Ganesh, the old elephant, as they also call him. Um, but that was even though he doesn't even show up until middle of book 2.
okay,
That's the voice I had in my head when I wrote the prologue.
that's why I didn't know.
Yeah.
I'm
Yep.
not that far.
Yep. Yep.
But
Yep.
that's what I'm gonna say. One of those bits of gold that when I get there, now that I've chatted with you, I've got your aura, right? Your influences. It's gonna be such a better experience.
Is it gray?
No, it's definitely not very bright. So as far as some influential authors for you, which one of your influential authors or ones many that have their hand in the way that you write?
Oh boy. So many. Oh geez. Um I mean, I'm a big Tolkien fan, though I don't write anything like Tolkien. As far as prose.
Mhm.
Um though a little bit in some of my description. Um they there might be a little bit but uh boy, I mean, I wish I could write as well as Joe Abercrombie, you know.
Okay.
But that snarky, cynical stuff, I love that stuff. So
He's amazing,
I'm
man.
sure
He's made me laugh
I'm
so
sure
hard out loud.
some of that creeped in. Um, uh, I was actually reading Game of Thrones, powering through the books when I decided I was going to go ahead and try to write Paternus. And so I think just the fact that he never shied away from any sort of gore or nastiness happening to people would be in there. Uh, you know, I was a big Ray Bradbury fan. Um, so I think when I was thinking of certain scenes, I was thinking of the tones that he would set and how he would set them to a certain extent. Um, Bye, Kay.
Yes.
See you
Thank you.
later.
Thank you for popping in.
And you know, I could probably go on and on and on. Probably Robert E. Howard,
Ooh,
Conan to a
yes.
certain extent. H.P. Lovecraft, certainly. Though I really don't write like any of them. I know that they all have had a strong influence.
And that's really what I'm after with that question.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that, man. So many influential people who inspired you that make you want to write the way that you write
Hmm.
through reading their prose, man.
Yeah.
I think that
Well,
that's
you know,
wonderful.
and people um, like Rick Riordan just showing, look, it can be done, you know.
Mm,
Um, and you know, I honestly had not read, I hadn't even heard of American Gods until I had already written all of book one
hmm
of Paternus trilogy. So I didn't know about it at all. And I was like, oh shit, did somebody already do what I'm doing? And he takes a very, very different approach. Um,
Neil
and
Gaiman.
Yeah, yeah. Um, you know, and I've read a lot of Stephen King, and a lot of it is absolutely fantastic, and a lot of it's just crap.
See, I
Unfortunately, he went through that period when he was on a whole lot of drugs back in the
sure.
70s and 80s when he wrote some stuff that I'm just like, wow, this is almost unreadable.
Mm,
But I know that there's some King in me somewhere because you know,
mm.
I was just really kind of blown away by books like The Stand, and I
Ooh,
read that in high school. And
it's a big one.
even though even though the ending, I was like, what?
I don't. I haven't read The Stand. I've read quite a few.
I won't say a thing then.
Thank you.
Yeah. And yeah, he has a problem with endings in books. Now, I haven't read more than the first book in the Dark Tower series, so
Me neither. I did
don't
not enjoy it.
I don't know how that ends. Uh, but um, but yeah, it's just yeah,
It's a pool of
it's
these people that had their
yeah,
influence. I
lots,
love
yeah,
that.
yeah.
So man, that's who I don't know. I think a lot of people start kind of the way I did. I read some King, which I liked. I
Hmm.
think my first fantasy book. No, no, no. My first fantasy book was Ordinary Monsters by J.M. Miro, which really got
Hmm.
me into reading fantasy, which was amazing.
Hmm.
It's an adult
I
dark
haven't read
academy.
it. I haven't
It's
read it.
amazing.
I need
It
to read
really
that.
is. It's
I used to
incredible.
read a lot of horror too when I was younger. Clive Barker. Actually,
Ooh,
yeah,
yes.
there's definitely some Clive Barker in there. Yeah, I was just blown away by a lot of his stuff
I have a
um,
buddy,
for a
Steve
long
Dark.
time.
He's an author as well, Steve Stark. He is absolutely his biggest fan type deal.
Yeah,
So I need to read more of Clyde Barker.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. It's really his novels are. I mean, his short stories are fantastic and novellas, but his novels are just like
wow.
yeah.
Um, what are you currently reading?
Right now, I'm actually reading a a novel by a new author
Ooh,
um, that's kind of cyberpunk,
oh yes.
cyberpunk horror, and I'm loving it so far. It's you know it's scary when people I know or new authors want me to read stuff. Mostly, I have to say you can send it, but it might be years before
Mm,
I get to it. It's just you know my TBR is just so long, and I'm such a slow reader. Um, but I've been reading hers, and and it's uh, it's really it's really good. It's the world is incredibly well fleshed out without info dumping, and it's called right now the working title. So keep an eye out for it.
hmm
Um, and it's called Run Like Hell.
Oh wow.
Yeah, by
Who's the author?
Ira Brand, and
Okay.
I'm enjoying the hell out of it. She's really I think
Self-pub?
I think she's going to be something. Yeah, I believe so. I don't know if she's going to try to go trad or not, but yeah, it's really fun, and I don't think there's enough of that kind of thing around anymore. Hail the Lore says cyberpunk horror. I'm listening.
Mhm.
I think a lot of people will, because there's not a lot like that, you know, and yet it moves really fast, and it's got, you know, some pretty horrific monster types in it.
That sounds
So
fun.
yeah, it's neat. It's really neat. So yeah, I'm
I'll be
enjoying
looking out for that for
yeah,
sure.
enjoying the hell out of it right now.
That's so cool too. Like as I hope she sees this and hears what you had to say, because man, that has to be so cool as an
I don't know
author.
if she watches any of this stuff. I'll tell her she better go check this one out.
All right, I
Yeah,
love it.
Run Like Hell by Ira Brand.
I've got it written down for sure,
Okay,
highlighted,
cool.
broad, in
Okay,
capital
cool.
letters. So, what are you working on currently, and kind of what's next for you?
Well, I mean, I'm a slow writer, as everyone knows.
Mhm.
So I'm currently working on book 2 of Kraken Rider Z. It's going to be 3 books. And I have to deliver this thing by June 30th. So they can get the audiobook recorded, and Tim Gerard Reynolds is going to be doing it again, of course. And that will be released same time as this one was released in 2024, mid November, is the plan. Now, hopefully, I don't have the same kind of things that slowed me down this time for book 1, and then the next book will be mid November of 2025, and that seems like a really long way away, but it's just not. Um, it'll go by fast. Um,
My guy Scott Oden in here, man. I'm so glad you're here, brother.
Scott,
I've had him on the channel, man.
hey.
He's a great guy.
Yeah, that's what I'm writing, Scott. Yeah, yeah, I'm writing that. Yes,
There you go.
sorry, fuck that crack camaraderie Z crap. I'm writing Scott Oden's next book.
Norse.
I wish I could say that I wrote his Grimnir series.
Ooh,
Not nearly enough people are reading that series. It is insane. It is. I mean, it's. I mean, Scott talks about his influence, Robert E. Howard.
mhm.
Um, and I got to read his book is just now coming out, his new one. And but I got to read it like almost a year ago or something
That's
like that.
awesome.
Yeah, which is really cool.
It is.
And it's just an amazing ending to the trilogy. And it's like if Conan were an orc in a horror film, right?
Yeah,
It's just like so insanely
I love
fun
that.
and deep and moody and powerful. Not nearly enough people are reading those books. Run and see them. Liar, liar, pants on fire. No, it was about a year ago I got to read your books. No, they're amazing. So yeah,
He's
ha
definitely on my
ha
list.
ha, Scott. You're getting a plug because
His Norse.
not enough people are reading that. Yeah, it's Norse inspired, but you don't have to be into Norse to enjoy the hell out of this. Yeah,
Love it.
yeah.
Love that.
Check it
Thank you,
out,
Scott, for
everybody.
being here, man. I had him when he was talking about his Conan writings, and Brian D. Anderson, and I forget, was it I'm terrible with names. He had another guy on with him. I believe his name was, it maybe I don't remember, but he was a wonderful guy. He lived in Michigan. He was a wonderful dude.
Came
Just
on with Scott.
yep, about
Oh, okay.
Their Conan writings.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Scott says it's unicorns and rainbows.
John
Yeah.
Hawking, that's him. John
Oh,
Hawking.
okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, if it's unicorns, Grimnir would be eating them. And if it was
love it.
rainbows, he'd be wiping his ass with them. And then using it as a club to beat down gods.
There you go. I love that, man. So I've been asking this question lately. Who are a couple people who you'd like to see me chat with in the future?
Oh boy. I don't know who all you've had on.
It don't
Um,
matter. Even if I've had him on, I'll chat with them again.
um, I always love to see what you need to do is read Michael Scott's The Alchemist, um, and Secrets of the Immortal, Nicholas Flamel. I don't know that I've ever seen Scott on an interview, or
Wow.
no, Michael Scott on an
Mhm.
interview. And he's big. He's pretty big. Trad Pub author, but what a nice guy. What a great guy. One of the greatest things that ever happened, because I was a huge fan of his books, and his was another one where I was like, man, I want to read this, but same kind of thing, but for adults. And it's, right. And I was reading this stuff in Reardon because of the mythology thing. I'm like, I want to see how people are using it. Um, and But he pulls in, folklore, characters from folklore and legend and myth and all this kind of stuff from all over the world. Um,
Mhm.
in the way that I love and that I always wanted to do with Paternus. So he was a big influence on me. And when one day on Twitter I saw, I had followed him ages ago. One day on Twitter I saw a post from him that said, "Even myths have legends. That's the best byline ever. I wish I would have thought of it. I
Mhm.
wish I would have thought of it first." And I was like,
One of those things you stop and really
yeah. I was
absorb,
like,
right?
wait, is this really Michael Scott?
Mm. So
Yeah.
it doesn't intimidate me because, man, I really have noticed even in the trad pub realm, like
Yeah.
people are so
Yeah.
giving as far as
People,
their time.
people, yeah, the vast majority. I mean, yeah, sure, there are your assholes, but the majority of people, the majority of authors are just really cool,
They
just
are.
really cool people. And and we're also used to working all by ourselves in front of a computer with no one around to talk to about that kind of stuff usually. That's why we flock to these. That's why we like these things and flock to these shows, these conferences, these conventions, and why we have little writer groups online, because then we don't feel so disconnected all the time.
And I love that because it really speaks to what you guys are doing, whether it's self pub or trad. It's an experience that a lot of people hope to have, myself included. And there's so much to learn, and that's really what I'm at. You've given me such an array of wonderful tidbits, if you will, pieces that I've written down that I will take and carry with me.
Good, good. I mean, honestly, yeah, just be yourself, write what you want to read, and enjoy yourself. And don't fret, don't freak out. Just sit down. You can do it. You know.
Thank you for that.
Yeah,
That really means a lot to me.
yeah. And I won't even add. It might suck, but it doesn't matter. And it's your first book. You know how many authors have like 4 or 5 books sitting, that will never see the light of day. They won't even speak of them.
Yeah.
I mean, my first novel was not something that I would ever talk about. Of course, I read it when I was in high school, but I did. I mean, but look, I did. It took me 3.5 years, almost 4 years, to write Paternus. So, and I was working on it every single day,
And,
writing, rewriting, changing things around, rewriting more stuff, pulling things out, and then using them later for short stories, that kind of thing.
well,
Yeah.
I just really want to thank you for just letting me hang out with you for a while. Just let me borrow you and your wisdom, because I did get a lot of that. I did.
Well, thank you.
And the people who came to chat away with us, and those who will watch in the future. I think there's a lot to gain from this. I know I did. So just a huge thank you to you, Dyrk.
Well, thank you for having me, and you're welcome.
Of course, and thank you. So you guys that came through to chat with us and watch this amazing experience with me.
Thanks, Christopher.
Yes,
Renegade Bard, Hail the Lore.
yeah,
Thanks for
that's
coming.
Brian D. Scott or Brian D. Anderson, by the way.
Oh, it is.
It is, yeah.
It is Brian. I can see the picture now.
I tell
Hey,
on him
Brian,
all
how you doing, brother?
the time. Thank you for popping in, man. I've had him on the channel talk about his Conan stuff too.
Oh,
So
cool.
it's
Yeah.
so cool hearing about Robert E. Howard and his
Yeah.
influence on a lot of
No,
people.
I was just such a freak for that stuff when I was a buddy of mine. We like he'd have one book and I'd have the other, and I'd finish mine, and we'd trade them in the halls
That's a
in high school, right? We'd like, oh, I'm done with this one. Are you done with that one? Yeah, I just got done with this one. What else you got? Yeah.
I love that. And
Yeah.
that's a memory, man. And that's knowledge and experience. So thank you
Yeah.
for sharing it with me. Again, thank you. Thank for you guys that watch live and in the future. And this hopefully won't be our if it's up to me, it won't be our last time chatting on the channel. I'll have
Yeah.
you back, man, and we'll
I'd
keep in
love
touch
to.
as I
I would
read
love to.
through your work, man, because I'll be texting you a whole lot. Like, hey man, I just found this spot that you were talking about. So
Oh, cool.
until next time, guys, I hope you have a wonderful night,
Yep.
morning, afternoon, wherever you're at. And we'll
Thank
see
you,
you next
Matt.
time.
Thanks everybody for coming. Have a great night.
You have a great night.